All right, so welcome to RevUp. This is module 6, working with buyers and getting your offers accepted. So I'm excited about this module because, hey, as a licensed agent, usually this is the first client we get to work with. Um, you know, so for several years I worked with buyers, and then I found out, hey, I can actually leverage myself, market myself to work with sellers and have a predominantly seller side of business. So that's what I did back in 2017. And for a couple of years, I mostly worked with sellers. Now, when you work with a seller, of course, listings bring buyers, right? So you're going to have both. As a real estate agent, I would say, don't just try to work with a buyer or just work with a seller. Work with both. You're going to maximize your business. You're going to learn the skills faster. And they really, it makes for a balanced business. But if you're that agent, maybe you've been in the business like some for a while and they decide, hey, I don't want to take any buyers out anymore, I'm going to refer those out. That's totally fine. All right, let's move forward. All right. So when we start out our modules, we do these affirmations together, and we do it because, hey, not only does it motivate us, but it puts a message inside of us, that internal message that, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to push through. I am the market expert in my area. So a lot of times as a newer agent, we let the old, the flip side of us, I'll say, talk some nonsense like, you can't do it. I told you, you're an idiot. You can't learn this stuff. Hey, I'm just saying this because it's happened to me. So these affirmations are great. So let's do this one together. I'm gonna read it first. So the affirmation for today is, I know my value and only work with realistic, qualified, and motivated buyers and sellers. So on 3, and welcome, Presley. If you got ladies would like to unmute and say it with me, because I don't like to hear my voice so much. So 1, 2, 3.
I know my value.
And only work with realistic, qualified, and motivated buyers and sellers.
That was awesome. It's good for a Monday, right?
I like realistic. That's
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not getting, okay, so when we, this is not Real Estate for Dummies. You can probably pick that book up in Barnes and Nobles, but hey, we're going to be smart about it. I learned a long time ago, because I was willing to work with anybody that called themselves a buyer, and I got burnt quite a few times. So yes, they do have to be realistic. They really need to be qualified. Okay. As much as you want to help your cousin buy a house, he, she needs to be qualified. Okay. Pre-qualified, whatever you want to call it, and motivated. You ever had somebody okay, I won't give any examples, but I've worked with clients before. Hey, they're pre-qualified, they know what they're doing, they're ready to go, but the last part of that, they're not motivated. I find the perfect house for them. Oh, I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I don't want to get up that early, or hey, let's wait till next weekend. You know what? It's hard to work with those types of buyers because, hey, they miss out on opportunities and you feel like you're just wasting your time. So what can we do to overcome those obstacles? All right. So let's look at the learning objectives for today. And when you hear me pause, I'm moving icons around on my screen so I can see the words. Okay. So the learning objectives for the buyer module are learning the steps in the buyer process, learning the buyer qualification and consultation process. We'll talk about the art of showing homes, and it is an art. The purchase agreement, some of the concepts within buyer's market versus a seller's market, and getting your offers accepted. So those are just kind of the highlights. What we're doing in the RevUp modules, we're not taking a real deep dive into these topics, but what we're doing is doing an introduction and kind of letting you know, hey, as you're building your business, these are some things you need to take to heart, or these are some milestones you need to record, or this is a process you need in your business. And I'll talk more. I've got some cheat sheets for you. If you want the deliverables that I have, the cheat sheets, just throw something in the chat and let me know you want them, and I will email them to you after the broadcast. So a couple of them I spent quite a bit of time on, and they're really good, especially if you can put them in front of your buyers to show them, hey, sometimes a buyer thinks, they get exasperated and they think you're not doing your job, or you're not helping them, with the process good enough or whatever. So I've got a couple things. I got a buyer guide, and I got 47 steps to taking a buyer from contract to close. When you show a buyer that, and they can really visualize all that we do for them, I think they have a better appreciation for us. So let's talk about this graphic. So how do we attract buyers? So in previous modules, you've seen this grid. So we have our buyer in the middle, okay? But there are a variety of ways that that a buyer comes to us, or that we attract them, or they find us. So for example, in my business, so I've been doing real estate for 16 years. So a lot of times I'll get a text or an email or a message that says, hey, so-and-so told me that you could help me. I'm thinking about selling my house or buying a house. So that comes from, I call it sphere of influence, referrals. Here we call it circle of influence. So as we go around this, this hub, or this wheel, or whatever you want to call it, what you'll see is that, there's more than one way to build your buyer business. For those who want to go knock on doors where it is legal in the subdivision, knock yourself out. I did it. I've done it. I'm not doing it again, but I did it early on in my business. I knocked on a lot of doors. It's just not my thing. I did it because, they said, do it. But I love other things like open houses. You can go into an open house, and as long as you're flexible and have an open mind, you got to have an open mind for open houses, because people will come in for a variety of different reasons. But that's look, how often do we have a client come to us? That's one of those occasions. So open houses are great for buyer leads. Internet, if you've got the money, I would say as a newer agent, don't spend your money on internet leads. Here at Realty One Group Revolution, we have some of the best lead opportunities with a program called OpCity that works through the brokerage. So that's a pay at the end. When you close it, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket up front. And our agents have been pretty successful at those. So if you're looking at internet leads, you want to find a source that has been successful for other agents. You don't want to be the guinea pig or the test rat and learn that, hey, these leads, these people really aren't interested in real estate.
Where do we find out the information about OpCity? Where is that?
OpCity?
Yeah.
Yep. Just tag your mentor or your BIC. We can get you signed up. Not a problem. So yeah, or hit me up. I might have some time later today. I can get back online with you and explain it to you how it works. Yeah, but it's a good opportunity, especially I believe for newer agents just learning, because it's no money out of your pocket. So you get to experiment without having to pay for it. Okay, just checking the chat. All right, so that's enough on that page. Okay, when we look at the buyer process, if you look at this graphic, and by the way, anything you want to screenshot on these, we don't give this information out. It's proprietary information. But if you want to screenshot, go ahead and screenshot it, hold it on your phone. This is something really cool that you can put out in front of your buyers, your clients. This is, the process that you're going to take them through. And even better when you can explain these steps to them. For example, at the bottom, it says start here. So buyer qualification, foundational. I mean, we don't look, it's like Monopoly. You don't pass go until you get qualified. Okay. So pre-qualification, we got to talk to the lender. So that's when you bring in your lender partner. And I say partner because you need to use a lender that you know, like and trust, that's been vetted, that can deliver results. And we have some of those we're already partnered with our company. Amy's one, Matt's one. So if you're not sure about a lender that you'd like to use, then ask us about our lender partners. Next is the consultation. This is where you're gonna, okay, you know what? I don't know why I'm explaining these because I'm gonna get ready to go through the steps. But consultation, you sit in front of you get information that's gonna be very instrumental in helping you take that client from contract to close. Number 3 is agency agreement. I don't know. I got rep. Anyway, I don't like to use that. Representation agreement signed. We just call it agency. Number 4 is the showing appointments are made. Number 5, showings arranged. 6, properties considered. 7, showings arranged. You see, it's a cycle. Number 8, offers made and negotiated. 9 is escrow opened. Okay, we're under contract. Number 10 is the pending path. We'll talk about that in detail. 11, your loan docs are signed. 12, escrow docs are signed. And 13, funding and recording. And then 14, buyer takes possession. Now, the reason we have these 14 steps is because they're very important milestones. Okay. These things, there's lots of steps that we have to take in between to make these 14 things happen. And when you look at the 47 duties of a buyer agent, you'll see what all those in betweens are. I'll show you that at the end. All right, I gotta stay on track, get us out of here at 10:30. So our next section is the pre-qualification. So what are the 3 things you learned in real estate school about a buyer being able to purchase or move forward? There's 3 buzzwords.
Willing, able, let's see, they have to be willing, able, and ready.
Yep, they're all on the screen. So you don't go and ask your buyer, hey, are you ready?
I just saw that.
Hey, Karen. Yep. So this is something we ask ourselves. Hey, is my client ready? Are they willing and are they able? And we alluded that a little earlier. But okay, so when we think about are they ready, then we need to ask, can they make a move now? Okay. So what are some things we need to take into consideration? Well, maybe we need to ask them about a lease. Are they in a current lease where they can't leave for another 6 months or 12 months? Have they recently sold a home? Are they in the process of selling a home? At what stage are they in? Because all these impact their readiness, right? Ask about their motivation. Why do you want to move? Why do you want to buy? Okay. And then if they're willing, okay, they may be ready, okay, but willing. That's a whole different question. Are there any credit or legal issues that's under able? Okay, so ask about their children. How long have they been looking for a house? What's their time frame? So they might be ready to buy, as in, hey, they've got funds available, but willingness, what about their kids? They may still be in school and they don't want to move until the kids are able to graduate middle school, high school, etc. And then their ability. So for example, they may be able to buy but they're currently going through a divorce. Do you think that's going to complicate things when we go under contract, when we buy? For example, if
One to
somebody,
buy, two to sell. You may not want to buy something if you're still married.
there you go. There you go. But think about this. If two parties, a couple is splitting up, do you think the chances are great that they might want their money separated? They might want to account for a split in the profits. They're probably already talked to an attorney. What might the attorney have put into place that we need to be aware of? Something called a separation agreement. Also, some couples, they don't have to be a couple, but some parties, when they come to you, they already have a court order that says, hey, this house or this property has to be sold and the funds are going to be split X and Y. Okay.
I also do know, just because I am from another state, that in North Carolina, when you do want to file for divorce, it's like a year waiting period. So even if you have to like be apart for like a year before you could actually file paperwork. So that could be a huge issue.
Well, just remember this though, unless there's a court order that says different, as long as these parties are in mutual agreement, they're ready, willing, and able to buy or sell, we can go ahead and do that for them. They can figure out in court afterwards. But unless there's a court order that says how the process has to be worked out, as long as they're in agreement, you can get them to agree with you. You can sell that property. You can help them buy property. But lots of questions to be asked before that happens. So that's why we have this buyer questionnaire. I'm going to send you a copy of it today. So this questionnaire has Realty One Group Complete at the top. I haven't replaced the logo, but that's where some of this information came from originally. You know, our corporate office is in California. So in this buyer questionnaire, the whole purpose is to get some beginning or starting information that will help us leverage more information out of our clients. So as you can see, we're not going to spend a lot of time, but it's basically got their personal information up top, how to communicate with them, their financing. We need to know if they've been pre-approved, if they even know what a lender is. Okay. They may not. And then down at the bottom, your current home. You know, we need to find out if they own, rent, or, you know, what their situation is. Now, in addition to that, and what I added on to the form that I'm going to send you, the buyer questionnaire, is these three. Okay, so a list of three things. It's kind of like a column list. So there's three categories of questions, or not really, a question you want to ask your client, and you have three categories of responses. So here it is. You want to ask them, when they're looking for a house, what is their must-haves? What is it that's drop dead? I'm not buying this house unless it has XYZ. Some may tell you, I got to have a 2-car garage. Some may tell you, I've got to have an open floor plan. Most usually say it's got to be at least 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Okay. But whatever the must-haves are, you need to know that. The second column or category is, if we were able to get this in a house, would it make you buy, would it make you more interested? Or what are the add-ons that you would like to have, but they're not necessary? So that's their bonus list. Okay. You want to know that, because if you are able to find them the house that they need, and it's got some of their bonuses in it, then that's even better. Okay. But you just want to know, what are those add-ons? And then the third is the knockout. Okay. This is a no-go. Okay. We can, let me give you a for example. If we want a house where we're not looking at our neighbors. So if you show them a property that's behind a public school, or it's within seeing distance of the next door neighbor or whatever it is, that's not what they want, then and you can label these how you want to. The whole purpose is to find out what they want, what they need, what they're looking for. Now, I will say this, even with all that said, yeah, they'll be in PDFs, Karen. So even with all that said, when a buyer starts looking, they change their wants, they change their must-haves, they change,
The location.
I've had clients say, I only want a single family home and it's got to be whatever, 5 miles from the nearest school. And they end up buying a 3-story in a subdivision. I mean, people don't know what they want. Think about when you went out and looked at properties.
You
you
buy
see
with
something-
emotion, and sometimes you think you know what you want, and then when you see something, you're like, oh wait, I like this.
It's just human nature. So don't get upset if your client does this. Just remember, we're the same way. All right, the lender meeting. I'm going to fly through these because these are steps that you can look at when we get off the training. But so the lender meeting, what does that look like? So before we can really look or take them through the home buying process, we want to be sure that they are able to afford the price range of homes they're looking at. Okay. So the best way to do it is get them pre-approved, not pre-qualified. Pre-qualified is really just information on a paper. But when they're pre-approved, the lender takes the pertinent information about them back to the underwriter, and the underwriter says, okay, this person, we will finance, we will lend money. That's what we're looking for, a pre-approval. That way we know exactly what price they can afford. Okay. So that's crucial because you don't want to take somebody out looking at $300,000 houses when they can only afford $250,000. You're wasting your time. And you want to be sure of the timing based on their credit, current credit standing, maybe even their employment. Maybe they just started a new job and the underwriter says, hey, they have to wait 30 days or they have to have 60 days on that job, or they took a job in a totally different industry, so we need to wait 2 years. Those are things that you need to be aware of. And the only way you're going to know is to go to the lender, do the lending process. Now, when it comes to the consultation, the meeting. So I know a lot of times we're doing this virtually, but if possible, try to meet your clients in person because more is said through visual communication than through hearing. Okay. So what I want to say about the buyer consultation initially is, if at all possible, try to get them to meet you at your office. Why? Because your office, our offices are our turf. We know what's in them. We know how to get around. We know the location, and it brings 3 things to your business. So I will always go back to talking about how to help you build your business. So safety and security. You want to make sure you're in a safe place and you know who you're meeting with. So if someone shows up and it's prearranged, you get a copy of their driver's license and hold it. Then now that's a little more assurity that, hey, they were willing to give their information over, so they're probably safe to talk to. You can have them send that before or when they show up at the office. And I would always say, try not to meet someone alone, whether it's at our office or a Starbucks or wherever. So if it's at our office, see if another agent can meet you there. If it's at Starbucks, you got plenty of people around, but you might want to take somebody with you anyway. So professionalism is the other reason. When they go in our offices, they're professional looking offices. They're real estate specific. So they're going to see, hey, this person takes their business seriously. And then of course, control. When they're on our turf, we have control. And I use the term loosely, control, anytime, anything can get out of control. But again, they're more likely to listen to you and take your advice when they're in your office. Some other things about the buyer consultation. Oops. All right. I need to move some stuff around so I can see. Okay. We already talked about verifying loan qualification. Review buyer search criteria. Okay. So we're going to vet their search criteria based on the pre-qualification or pre-approval, right? We're going to make sure, okay, we're searching in the right price range. Okay, now that we're in the correct price range, anything's game, whatever you want to look for. Okay, we help them. We help them set parameters for the search, because when you're using a search, MLS search engines, there's particular fields we have to search by. So a lot of times somebody will tell you, oh, I just want a house, show me a house with swimming pools. Well, I could do that, but you're not going to see all the homes with swimming pools. Why? Because not all the agents check the block for swimming pools, or you get what I'm saying, right? So you want to make sure that you educate them on the process. Learn all about your buyers. Sitting in front of them, having a casual conversation, chatting about their desires, their wishes, their vision beforehand will help answer a lot of the questions. Okay. Introduce buyer to your team. So when I say team, you might not have a physical real estate team, but you do. You have me, Andrea, and Diana as your BICs. You have your mentor. You have Amanda. So you have your lender, you have your closing agent. Those are all your team. So I would say, if I were you, that's how I would introduce myself. Hey, this is what I do, and my team is this. You can show them on a piece of paper. My team is in my listing presentation, so I have them. It's towards the back of it. But anyway, educate your buyer about the process, what is going to happen from contract to closing. And that's why I'm giving you that 47 duties of a real estate agent. That's why we have the 14 steps here that I showed you earlier. And then how do you secure their loyalty? Okay, specific way to talk to them. But loyalty is a two-way street. Okay, if you're requesting their loyalty, if you're telling them, showing them, hey, you got to be loyal to me because we're going to work together, you've got to be loyal to them. And loyal to them is what? Showing up on time, getting them the information they need, educating them properly. So once you start showing your loyalty to them, it's even less of a question that they're going to be loyal to you. And then schedule the showing appointments. There's a whole process for that. There's going through showing time. You as an agent knowing how showing time works, what information you need to give them, what information you need to obtain before you actually walk up to a property. All that's vital information. Then we look at the pending path. Guess what the pending path means? Yep. It's that point where they go under contract until they close, or in the case we see here, until they move in that property. So let's talk about the pending path for a minute. We're under contract. That's down at the bottom. Then we move to inspections, right? Those inspections often result in repairs that need to be made or requested. Then we got to look at lender requirements that are coming back based on, feedback from underwriters, etc. We may have some title issues or not. Hopefully there's clear title. The title company or escrow attorney or whatever is looking into those issues. And then we have the transaction closing, or we call it the closing table here in North Carolina. And then we have the buyer moving in to take possession of that property. So that's what that's like. Again, if you want to screenshot this, you may go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. Next, step 2, the buyer consultation. So, and I like calling it a consultation is because it's really an interview both ways. The buyer is interviewing us and we're interviewing them. The purpose is to get the most vital information we can out of this meeting. So remember these 3 things. These, if you don't remember anything else about today's training, if you remember these 3, I don't know, sayings or whatever, sound bites, whatever. If you can get your buyer to understand this or believe this about you, then you are miles ahead. Because what we need is their trust to really pull this off, to really take them from contract to close. So number 1 is I'm going to help you negotiate the best possible price and terms. When they know that about you, don't make them guess about this. If your client has to ask you this first, then you're already behind. Let them know up front, my job is to help you get the best possible price and terms. Okay. So the best possible price and terms are different from buyer to buyer because we're all different as people. I don't, at different stages of my life, when I buy a house, I buy it for different reasons. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Everybody still with me?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing is they need to know that you will act as their advocate. You are their advocate. That's why they hired you. That's your job. You're the mediator. You're the go-between person. Okay. You're the one thing that stands between them and their dream home. And it's not that we're standing between them, it's we're standing there to help them get it, to make that dream come true. So let them know that you're their number 1 advocate. Your job is to make sure that you take them through a seamless process, as painless as possible. You might not even want to use the word pain, but that's the way I look at it from this end. And you're going to take them through the process with a successful close. The third thing you want them to know is my job is to help you get through the process and the paperwork quickly and successfully. And the only reason we're going to be able to do that is because we know the process, we know the systems, and that's why we're taking this training. So knowing the process and the systems will get them there quickly and successfully. As a new agent, I remember not knowing what comes after we go under contract. Yeah, I knew there were inspections, but I didn't know what all inspections that included under that label. But I had to learn by trial and error. I had to ask questions. I had to ask my BIC a lot of questions. So don't take for granted that something is supposed to happen from contract to close. If you don't know, ask somebody. And just be aware that every transaction is different. Okay. Just because everybody's getting radon in the mountains doesn't mean your buyer wants to get a radon inspection. They may say, nope, I don't want it. And so do you force that inspection on them? No, we don't. We have them sign a professional services agreement that says, hey, they waived the radon inspection. And so that gets us out of the hot seat should they have radon in their house later. Okay, step 3, the representation agreement sign. Okay, we call it the buyer agency here, exclusive buyer agency. A lot of agents, they start locking up here. They're like, I don't know how to ask my person to sign. Look, if they want to buy a house, they know they need to sign the appropriate paperwork. So it's really us not presenting this in the correct way that gets people worried about if they should sign it or not. And we can't represent anyone until they sign that agency agreement. So the best way to present it is as you go in the normal process of the buyer consultation. Let them know up front that before you can go to bat for them, before you can represent them and take them from contract to close quickly and successfully, that we have to sign a hiring agreement. That's what I call it. It's an agency agreement that says, hey, you're working with me and I'm working with you. This is this is our agreement to each other. Now, I always tell my people, you can decide if you want to do this or not. And also with our organization, I mean, I'm one of the BICs, one of the owners, so I'm telling you this is okay. But in some companies, you have to ask the BIC or the leadership. But I tell my people, if they have a problem up front signing a buyer agreement, I tell them, I say, look, Mr. So-and-so, we're going to sign this exclusive buyer agency for 6 months. But I'll tell you this, if we get into a month or a month into this agreement and you decide you don't want to work with me anymore, then we'll tear it up, we'll dismiss it. Just make sure your BIC is okay with that. Now, it's a different story if they're under contract. Okay, if we go under contract, I'm not tearing up that buyer agreement. Okay, I'm not tearing up that agency. If they don't like working with me or something happens, then we go to the BIC. The BIC assigns this to another agent to get it closed. It saves the deal. It gives you some money. In the end, depending on the circumstances, you might have to give some of that commission to the other agent for closing, but we don't just back out of buyer agency agreements or transactions just because somebody asks us to. So this increases the odds of getting paid for all your efforts. You have to have that, I just call it a hiring agreement, that buyer agency. And again, loyalty is a two-way street. If you're loyal to them, you're educating them, they're probably going to be loyal to you. All right, so how do we say it? How do we introduce the buyer agency agreement or the representation agreement? We say something like this, and you can screenshot this if you'd like. Mr. Buyer, let's move to the paperwork that allows me to represent you. I will give you an overview of each section or paragraph by paragraph. It's actually pretty straightforward. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And you're just going to go over it with them. People don't push back on that. What people push back on is when you start changing your voice and you act scared and you're like, I've got this form that I got to get you to sign. My BIC says you have to sign it. And you're acting like that. They're going to like, okay, what's up here? It's just like any other form that your buyer is going to have to sign or provide information for. So anyway, so I like this. Let's move to the paperwork that allows me to represent you. Okay. And then you pull out your buyer agency agreement and say, here you go. Let's go through this. And it details what, of course, what your commission is and all that. So full disclosure, we have to disclose to our clients. Again, never really had a client pushback. Showing appointments made. So what I'm going to say here is the purpose of the training today is not to show you how to go through and make a showing appointment, but it's to set some of the parameters and things you need to know about it. So number one is you need to set expectations up front. When you're excuse me, you're making these appointments, you're going to tell your buyer up front, hey, we're only going to make 6 appointments at a time. That's the most we can really do and really have a good look at in a day's time. That's what I tell them. So give me your 6 best listings that you like. We're going to set those up for showings. What you want to do is make sure you review that showing process with them. What's the day or the hour, the 2 hours going to look like? Okay. Because when you make these appointments, you need to separate them so it gives you time to get from one property to another. I mean, sometimes there might be 30 minutes between 2 showings. So you got to think about how long I'm going to be at that property. And this is where you do backward planning. But again, you want to set your client up for success so they know exactly what this showing appointment is about. Okay. Again, a showing appointment is not their time to go in and take apart the HVAC and see if it's working well. Okay. Some clients will try to do that. It's not for your client to go in the kitchen and look in the pantry and pull a banana out because they're hungry. I've had that happen before. It happened before I could say anything. So, it's just craziness. But you want to let, we don't want to have a lot of rules, but we do need to communicate and set expectations.
Bring snacks for your buyers.
Hey, that's a good idea. Or yourself. I'll bring my own snacks. I eat between showings in the car. All right, showings arranged. You're going to let them know that you're going to set up the automated MLS searches so they'll know what to expect in their email inbox. And by the way, they might have to go look in their spam box the first time. Just depends on their email settings. Again, I'm showing no more than 6 homes per appointment. I'm also going to tell them that, hey, I know what kind of house you're looking for. So I'm going to go into my database and I'm going to ask if there's anybody that's willing to sell their house that matches what you're looking for. Okay. You want to let them know that you go out of the way to help them find the right house. And then you want to post their needs on social media, like some of the private realtor groups that we have. You don't want to post their name, but hey, I'm looking for a 3-2 near Lake Wylie. It has to have this in this price range. So the fact that you're telling them that you're going to do that shows them, hey, they're going to go out and try to help me find the right house. They're not just relying on what comes off the MLS. Because by the way, your buyer can go on Zillow or whatever app. They can see the properties themselves, right? But they want to know that you're working for them. Okay, some showing techniques, do's. Okay, these are some things you need to do. Call ahead. I would call ahead and make sure that house is still available. I do it every time. Okay, because the MLS might not have been updated and you don't want to waste your time. Second one, ring and knock, announce yourself. When you go up to that house, whether it's vacant or not, ring the doorbell or knock. Give somebody the opportunity to come to the door, because in Waxhaw a few years ago on a Saturday morning about 9 o'clock, instead of ringing or knocking, it was a vacant property. I began to put the key in the door and I opened, it was the side door. And as I was stepping in, a gentleman came from around the corner, half dressed. I think he had taken up residence in the house and was sleeping. It scared the Jesus out of me. So, so I learned, okay, even on a vacant property, I'm going to knock or ring the doorbell first. Okay. It's just a good practice, might keep you safe. Lead the way initially. Okay, so you be the first one to go in the door and turn on the lights. You go in and make sure the curtains are open, whatever it is. I go ahead of them from room to room and make sure all the lights are on. But I don't follow them. I don't encroach upon them while they're looking through the house. I keep a little bit of distance so that we can talk back and forth, but I'll let them know, hey, this is your space. By the way, I don't let people walk behind me. That's just a security thing that I've learned in some of the jobs that I've been in over the years. That's the way I am. But don't let people, when it says go in, yeah, you be the one to go in and do what you need to do. But I follow behind them. I let them walk from room to room and I listen. Encourage exploration. You don't want them digging through somebody's drawers though. So just be careful about that. Watch and listen. When 2 people are looking at a property and you're back there just listening, you're going to learn a lot about what they want or don't want. Ask them for
Who's
feedback.
in charge?
That's right. Find out who's in charge. Funny, me sometimes, the guys, sometimes the first one to approach me about buying a house. And then we talk for a couple of weeks and then I get out looking at properties with he and the wife and find out she wants nothing that he wants. And he never told me that one, so that's funny. Or it could be the other way around. Anyway, ask for feedback, return the home as you found it. Okay. Look at the MLS. If it says turn the lights off, lock the door when you leave, make sure that happens. If the MLS says leave the lights on when you leave, make sure that happens. Leave a business card. It's still a practice. I don't know why, but I do it. Okay, some do nots. Do not accompany buyer to every room. Again, they need room. Okay, it's kind of like going shopping, looking at shoes, and the shoe rep is like breathing on your neck. We don't want that. Okay, state the obvious. When you walk into a room and you see mildew, call it out. When you walk into a room and it smells like dogs, call it out. Okay. Disagree with them. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Do not. Okay. So this is a negative. I was kind of looking at the positive. Do not state the obvious, like, okay. I'm trying to think of something simple, but don't
Paint
say,
color?
yeah, don't say things that they as an average person are going to recognize and understand. Call out the things that they're not going to be aware of or understand. Does that make sense? Don't disagree, but if I walk into a room and it's smelly, I'm going to say it first. If I can beat my clients to, I'm like, hey, y'all smell that? Something's going on. Okay. Don't disagree with them, even if you do. Okay. Just say politely, hey, I hear you, or whatever. Just don't disagree with your clients. Unless it's something unethical they're trying to get you to do. Don't defend the property. It's not yours. You're neutral. Just because you think it's the best property for them, don't defend it. Okay. You're gonna put a wedge between you and your clients. Do not skip a home. Okay, so what this means is when you're scheduled to show a house, don't just skip it. If they don't want to see it or you're falling behind in time, cancel the showing or reschedule it, but don't just skip. Okay, let them know. Okay. Do not set up more showings until the buyer has eliminated this one from consideration. So the point here is you don't want to just go from house to house without giving your clients time to really think about what they want and give you some feedback. Because the first house they see just may be the one they end up buying. So why not take some time to talk about what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. Don't just hurry from house to house without going through that process. Some questions to ask as you go. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we just saw this is our third house today. If there were no more homes to see, which one would you choose and why? And do that. I do that after every property. I say on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me where this house sits. Okay. You can do 1 to 5, whatever. But that gives me an idea because sometimes they don't tell you or you'll think they don't like it. And then after the 7th showing, can you take back that second one? We really like that one. Oh, really? I couldn't tell. Some advantages to this approach is that you will show them fewer homes if you get the feedback from them. Because if you're able to get the feedback and say, hey, you guys, okay, this is the second house that you saw that didn't have a garage. Why should we look at houses that don't have a garage? You know, it's not what you want. Okay, you're right. So don't show us any more houses without a garage. You're keeping momentum or forward movement. Okay. And it's easier for them to make decisions. It's easier for you to make decisions. And you'll know if they've changed their mind. They could get in that third house and decide, we just don't want to be in a subdivision with an HOA. I don't know. I mean, people just change their minds. So you want to know as soon as that happens, if possible. Okay, and we got to move on. So property selection. Okay. Spot buying signals. I'm working with a couple right now. They're looking for a particular home. It's very tough, but interesting. But here's when I know when it's probably going to be time to write an offer. When the female partner, when she says, when we step in the door and she says, let's just write an offer. I know the guy is going to say, well, wait a minute. But when she says that, I know they're going to go talk about it and they're going to call me back and say, write an offer. So I make that mental note and I start preparing. So after the showings, I go get on my laptop, start getting everything ready. The problem is now given enough due diligence to win that property, right? Or something like that. But so those are buying signals. Watch for nonverbal cues, like somebody turns up their nose when they walk in a house, or just acts disinterested. Ask trial closing questions like, if this is something you know to be true, will your armoire fit in that bedroom? Or would your son like this room? Or, whatever, things like that, personal things that you learned about them. Go ahead and ask those questions. And also ask the closing questions. Are you ready to make an offer? All they're going to say is yes or no, but they may decide, hey, well, yeah, maybe we should make an offer. Okay, changing criteria. Pay attention to potential changes. Again, we talked about it a little bit in their habits, their language, their behavior. Make time to revisit the 3 lists we talked about. Remember the must-haves, the bonuses, the knockouts. Know when the issue is either a criteria change or a reluctance to buy. A criteria change, that's easy. All right, we can change the MLS search. But if it's a fear of buying, then that's an objection we have to overcome. So when overcoming objections, that means we got to go back and investigate. We got to go back and get more information. Why are they feeling this way? And it's probably that I haven't educated them properly or enough about the process. All right, key areas of the offer. Some things to note when we're making an offer on a property is the loan type. The loan type will determine specific forms that need to go in the offer packet. The loan type determines how long it's going to take to close a loan, right? We know that a VA is probably going to take more time to close than an FHA or conventional. However, with a good lender like we have, you can close them at the same time you can close a conventional. So anyway, inspections, want to really understand and research the inspection process, repairs as well, to know how to talk to your clients, how to inform them ahead of time to expect repairs. I mean, to expect conditions where they might need repairs. Okay. Every house has something wrong with it. I don't care what anybody says. There's no perfect house. Besides, if there is a perfect house, you're going to have a buyer that's going to find something wrong with it. Property condition disclosures, get to know those, what it means, what goes in it. Environmental disclosures. Who can tell me what an environmental disclosure is?
Is that the MOG?
Yep, could be that. Could be the could even be the lead-based paint. It could be usually see these on commercial properties, but it could be living near an industrial complex, something like that. All right. So again, this training was designed back in the balanced market, which we don't have right now. We're in a seller's market still, but so I'm going to say it is. I mean, you can get price and terms right now. So it means you can get the. Let me just say this way: the seller can get the price and terms that they want right now. It seems. I remember when, for the longest time we were in a buyer's market. The buyers, they wanted it, whatever they wanted to offer. If they wanted to get the house sell or sold, they had to meet the buyer's terms. Just not the case right now. It's kind of the opposite. But in a balanced market, usually you'll get one or the other. Which is more important to you? This is the question you ask your client in that case. And I would still ask them even in this market. What's more important to you, getting the house at a lower price or getting the seller to help you with financing and repairs or something to that effect? That'll tell you how they're thinking. A lot of buyers think like, I just call it the investor mentality. They want to get something for nothing. Sorry if you're an investor. I don't mean it that way, but just, I'm sorry. Some investors are just that way. They want to get something for nothing. All right. Sample offer presentation, cover letter. So you're making an offer. You could copy and paste this. I'm going to send it to you ladies, but so this is something you would send to your listing agent. Hey, attaches my offer for your listing at blank. I wanted you to know my clients intend to occupy the property as their family home. Now, you don't want, okay, so there's some fair housing stuff in here. It needs to be cleaned up. You don't need to talk about the daughter, okay? That's all I'm going to say. If you ever have a question about fair housing and if you think you're violating or not sure what to do, just run it by one of us BICs. But you don't want to get too detailed. Basically, all you're doing is so the agent, even though they're going to open the offer and go through it, if you can show them on the front side what you're offering, it really helps, especially when you're pressed for time and you know this property is going to go soon. It helps the listing agent, it helps you. All right. Tips for communicating with the listing agent. This is all I'm going to say about this. Ask the listing agent. You're going under contract with them. Ask them how do they like to communicate. If they say text only, text them. However, anything that has to do with a form or repairs, I would capture that in an email. Okay. You want to be able to have email communication if possible, so you can save those emails in your folder. You can do the same with text, but it's just easier with email. So what I'm saying here is communicate with them by the style that they like best. Handling difficult agents. Not going to spend a lot of time here, but what I want you to do is think about this. You're going to run into agents on the other end. You're going to go into contract. You're going to find out the other agent's an a-hole. Okay. What you want to do is don't let them suck you in to the emotional state they're in. Just step back, take a breather. By the way, in real estate, there's nothing that has to be said right then, right? We can always wait. But think about this. Ask the question, who do I represent? Oh, I represent my client, not them. So don't let your ego get the best of you. Don't try to be right. Don't argue. If they come back at you and say, hey, your offer looks like crap, you missed a blank or you didn't, or whatever, just say, oh, I'm so sorry, let me fix that. So here's the difference. You could get in an argument and that listing agent could go back and convince their seller to not comply. I mean, they shouldn't do this, but just say they could put a bad taste that gets back to the seller that affects the whole contract. Whereas you could just take the high road and say, let me fix that. Let me do the right thing or whatever. And it might not be that you did anything wrong at all, but the attitude that you have might keep the contract going, which gets your buyers in the house that they want and gets you a paycheck at the end of the day. I've had a few of those. So when you get to the end and you have that paycheck, then you'll feel better about it. All right, we're going to skip. We already talked about that. Presenting the offer, we really don't do it in person anymore. I would say be personable about presenting your offer. And I need to change this. This is old school. It's not practical in a lot of ways. But when we submit an offer, it's usually email, right? So let's skip that. Opening and closing escrow. So the only thing you need to know here is that copies of the final contract, the ratified contract, will go to the title company or attorney, whoever you're using. You'll give the other agent or the agent on the other side, the listing agent, a copy. Your client will get a copy. The lender will get a copy. So all those people pertinent to helping that transaction close will get a copy. Always advise the buyer to verify wiring instructions prior to making earnest money deposit. That's a whole different story. Some attorneys will not take or will not even wire allow you or wire monies for you. So just something to know ahead of time when you're working with an attorney. The pending path, we're almost finished here. So the pending path is from contract to move in. I think we mentioned that earlier. So if you want to screenshot this, go ahead. Loan docs are signed at the end. Prepare the buyer for last minute lender requirements. I tell my clients up until sitting at the closing table, or if they're there in person or virtual, that anybody could ask them for any information or change something on a document. Just go ahead and get that in their head. Okay, because they'll get upset. Oh, I've got to do something different. I have to provide more information, whatever. Just tell them the lender will be seeking updated information from them up until the time to close. Step 12, escrow instructions, document signed. So you want to talk to them about what it's going to be like at the closing. I would get to the closing with your clients 15 minutes early. Usually the receptionist will, take copies of your driver's license, things like that, and maybe even get you in the door earlier. But if you're able to be at closing with your client, this is a good way to support them and show them that you really care about their needs, and also you're an agent that's going to show up when it counts. Closing does not happen until both of these have occurred: funds released and sale recorded, at least in North Carolina. Okay, in North Carolina, you have closing, you have recordation, and then funds are released. In South Carolina, you have closing and funds are released. So just remember, North Carolina, recordation has to take place after the closing, before funds are released.
Try not to have a Friday afternoon closing.
Yeah, try not to. It's best to go Monday.
May not get those keys till Monday.
Right. Sometimes you can make it happen, but depends on the attorney. And then buyer takes possession of the home, and then they're happy. You arrange for keys, garage door remotes, etc. And this is the end of Rev Up. So real quickly, I'm going to go over the one habit. So the one habit is each day you're working your business, if you'll do a minimum of 3 calls, call 3 people, add 3 people to your database, and write or send out 6 handwritten notes. That's going to help you scale and add people to your database. Over a 30-day period, 60-day period, 90-day period, you're going to watch your database grow, which grows your sphere of business, which grows your business in general. That is all I have for Rev Up 6. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.